Welcome to the Invested Dads Podcast, simplifying financial topics so that you can take action and make your financial situation better. Helping you to understand the current world of financial planning and investments, here are your hosts, Josh Robb and Austin Wilson.
All right. Hey. Welcome back to the Invested Dads Podcast, a podcast where we take you on a journey to better your financial future. Today, we are going to be doing something very, very special. We are going to be talking to world-renowned author and speaker, motivational speaker even, Hixon Zuercher Capital Management's own Tony Hixon.
I hope I can live up to that expectation. We're going to try our best.
Hey, we have listeners all around the world, so now you're world-renowned.
They heard your
name.
name.
They can't get T-shirts outside of the U.S., I hear.
That's right.
Well, we ran out.
Shipping
We
limitations.
ran out.
That's right.
So yes, Tony Hixon, one of the partners here at Hixon Zuercher Capital Management, where Josh and I work. He wrote a book, and we're going to talk about that today. So, Tony, tell us a little bit about yourself.
Well, first of all, thank you for having me on your show. I really appreciate it. You guys have done, what is this? What episode number are we on? 90-some?
90-some.
Yeah, we're in the 90s.
Almost to 100. It's testimony that consistency compounds. You've been releasing some really great content. I've listened to every episode, and I've gotten some insights and some value on each one. So great job to you guys. The Invested Dads, you guys are rocking it out. Good.
Hey, thank you. And Josh is here, too.
Josh is on the microphone.
I am here, ready to go. I'm excited. This book, though, I mean, it was a great book, and it compounds into what we've been doing here of getting outside of just the financial aspect, and we'll talk about that in a minute. Yeah. But tell us a little bit about yourself, though, personally. Yeah. Who are you, Mr. Hixon?
Who am I? Well, I am a farm boy. Grew up in a small farm outside of our school district there in Pandora, Gilboa School District.
PG.
Is where we're at. PG, Rockets.
The Rockets, huh?
Yeah, rock it out. So, small farm boy, but at the same time, had an extreme desire and somewhat of a interest in numbers. So, went to Ohio Northern University, where I was able to achieve a degree in accounting. So, upon graduation, the world at my fingertips, I entered into a CPA firm here in the micropolitan top number one Findlay community.
Yeah, you had to go to the big city for that.
Big city, and scored a job at a CPA firm. Quickly learned that sitting behind a desk all day, punching 10 key, preparing tax returns, auditing, it all kind of maybe made sense in college, but actually doing it, I just couldn't quite grasp if I was going to be able to put up with that my entire life. Secondly, you had to bill for your time. So, I mean, that's just a crazy new dynamic that they didn't really tell you much in school is every 6-minute increments. You got to write that down.
That was how detailed it is.
6 minutes.
Whoa.
5 minutes is free. 6
'cause
minutes
it's a tenth of an hour.
It's a tenth of an hour.
So you'd be 0.1, 0.2.
Yeah, so my entire life, even when I went home at night, I was still like, I was looking at my clock for 6 minutes. I'm like, Carrie, you got 6 minutes.
That's right. Moving on.
Conversation over.
So from there, I started to connect with my current business partner, Adam Zuercher. We were high school buddies. He went to a different college up at UT, also with a degree in accounting. And we just started to reconnect here in town over lunch and decided and discovered that we had similar values, similar interests, and a desire to be entrepreneurial. And we decided that starting our own firm where we could help individuals and businesses and families make wise decisions with their money would be a lot of fun. So 99, 2000, 2001, the tech bubble had just burst. And as I was preparing tax returns at that CPA firm, I was seeing a lot of mistakes happening. I was recording all the losses that these clients had experienced, and I saw the names of the companies that were generating these losses, and I'm like, these are great companies. They're not going out of business simply because our country was in an economic downturn. So it would pique my interest to be involved in the investing side of things. And in 2002, with 0 assets under management, 0 clients, a desk, a chair, and a passion in our hearts, we launched Hixon Zuercher Capital Management, with a desire to help our investors make wise decisions with
It was a desk and a chair. They took turns. I mean, they didn't even have
They sat
no
on each
budget
other's
for 2
lap
chairs.
or something.
It's your turn to sit down. Okay, fine. Yeah,
One computer,
that's right. Yeah.
2 employees, and look where you're at now.
Look where we're at today. So yeah, today we're serving over 300 clients in and around Findlay, Northwest Ohio, and throughout the country. We're stewarding over $270 million in assets under management. We have a team of 11 people that put 2 feet on the ground every day to do remarkable work, and it's quite an honor and privilege to see our team come together and provide a comprehensive wealth management to our clients, and each one of our clients are uniquely positioned to benefit from the service that we provide. So we're super excited. I'm super excited to be on the show today and reveal a little bit more about the book and where it's at today.
So that's Tony, the professional.
That's
which
Tony
everyone knows and loves.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Of course.
There's also Tony, the invested dad.
Oh, yes.
So you're a dad.
Mm-hmm.
You have 3 kids.
3 kids.
Talk about your kids. Talk about your wife.
For sure. Yeah. So 3 kids. My oldest, sophomore, actually school just started this week.
You have a
sophomore in high school.
Goes fast.
I feel old, but she's awesome. She's a cheerleader. And so we're doing the Friday Night Lights thing with no COVID restrictions. The games are open. It's a really fun atmosphere. So it's a really fun time. My middle child daughter, her name's Kaya, and she's in 8th grade. And because Pandora's marching band is so small, we dip into junior high.
You need it.
That's
when
right.
they're really good,
Yeah, we're
you pull
filling
them
up the ranks.
You gotta pull them up out
Recruit.
of the recruit from the junior high realm. So she's busting out marching band. And,
That's right.
She's having a good time.
What does she play?
I want to say the sousaphone or mellophone, and it's a horn.
Yeah.
Let's just go
A big
with it.
horn.
It's a big horn.
Yeah.
She's a small girl.
Yeah.
But she
Lug that around and
Getting it done.
She's got a lot of hot air, so it makes it work pretty
there you
well.
go.
Youngest son, Everett, he is in 4th grade, and currently he's in flag football. So we're rocking out flag football games. He loves it, and Ohio State is his favorite team, and so it's a good time.
There you go.
My wife, Carrie, and I have been married 22 years. We were high school sweethearts. She is primarily a stay-at-home mom, and she's mainly the chauffeur for the kids to get them from point A to point B when needed. So,
And she holds secret recipe to one of the best chai recipes in the world.
Oh, yeah. Don't limit it to Northwest Ohio. It's the world.
in the world.
It's
Yeah.
addictive.
Yeah, you cannot
So,
have that recipe.
But you can have some.
But the value of that, is just
It's like
astronomical.
it's like an NFT.
Yeah. Oh, you
She should non-fungible token that.
Yeah.
I haven't thought of that till right now.
There you go. And hobbies. What do you do outside of work? What is your passion?
Yeah, so prior to my 30th birthday, which was a long time ago, by the way, I felt the need to accomplish something. And a group of friends and I, we kind of caught the bug to see if we could train for and complete a triathlon. So a triathlon, swim, bike, and run. And we trained and we completed it. And I caught the bug and they didn't. And it
stuck for you.
It stuck for me. So I have completed, I don't know how many, dozens or more of Olympic distance triathlons over the years. And I don't know where my friends are at anymore. They're probably on the couch
They're
watching
still
TV
trying to
somewhere.
finish that first one.
They're binge watching Netflix.
So what are the distances? Remind me on those.
Yeah, so the distance for what I do is the swim is a mile, right? So you're crawling through water for a mile, which isn't the funnest thing in the world. And then you hop on your bike and you bike a 26-mile 40K. And then you run a 10K, which is 6.2 miles. So mile swim, 26-mile bike, 6-mile run, cross the finish line, drink some water.
I feel like I've done one of those. If you compound my 2-3 years worth of all those things together,
It might add up to one.
yeah, is it continuous clock, or can I start and stop it each day when I finish my activities?
Josh, we can make it a continuous clock.
good.
Yeah,
So Tony is a triathlete, which
Yes.
means he's 3 times the athlete of most people.
Yep.
And mostly me, as I'm sitting here like, man, I ate 4 tacos last night.
as he rubs his belly.
I know.
Triathlete, 4 tacos, 3
I'm a
bags
quadra
of chips,
athlete.
and-
Yeah, that's right.
Count them up.
Take that. No,
Now,
but
we know-
triathlete. Wow.
Yeah, we know too that doesn't just your passion. You've created your own
Forced it onto
triathlon.
my kids.
That's right.
Yeah. So yeah, the kids are, it's just like any kid that wants to kind of support their dad. They've been to almost every race I've ever done. And I thought it'd be cool. I think it was 5 years ago. I thought it'd be cool. What if we did a Hixon family triathlon? So I called a local printing company, got some shirts made up, and scoped out a neighbor's pond. And I thought, let's do a really short distance, but maybe they'll catch the bug too, and something that we can do together. So one Saturday morning, we set out to swim a little bit, bike a little bit, run a little bit. The kids' grandparents came over, Carrie's mom and dad, to help celebrate the win. So the kids thought it was the best thing ever, and kind of stuck. So they've been asking, like, "Are we going to do this again, Dad? Let's do it again." So this year, last Saturday, we completed the 5th annual Hixon Family Triathlon.
Wow.
Right.
Good time.
So Tony has the kids in the best shape in the entire county.
That's right.
Yeah.
The family. If you take just a family ratio, it's an
they
in-shape
win.
family. So swimming a mile here in Northwest
The Blanchard
Ohio.
River.
Yeah. There's not a lot of places you can get a mile swim that you'll end up being healthy when you get out of that water.
Yeah, you don't want to glow when you're
No.
So how does that work? Is it laps? A lot of laps?
A lot of laps. So fortunately, I have a good buddy that has a pond that's kind of more long than circular. And so by the time a lap is down and back, and so by the time you get back around, it's 100 yards. So if you do 18 of those, you got a mile.
There you go.
How do you count and swim? Do you lose count?
So they create this thing on Amazon where it's a sport counter. It rests right on your finger, and you hit the button, and
It's not like your Garmin that you've been trying to sell me for 3 years.
I think you should probably get a Garmin though.
So that is okay. We could spend all day talking about triathlons, but one thing in your book that we learned was that you compared the retirement planning journey to preparing for racing and finishing and recovering from a triathlon. So kind of dig into that a little bit, and then we'll go into more specifics a little bit from the book.
Well, I mean, if you really think about it, the triathlon training plan, I typically run a race in August. I start that plan in May. Okay, it's a 12-week plan where you're getting your body acclimated to a hard summer season. And in Ohio, you basically have the summer, and that's about it. Otherwise, it's too cold to go outside of your house. So it takes some time. It takes some discipline to prepare for that finish line. And by the time August comes around and you feel ready and you've completed the race and you make the decision to get up that morning and the finish line is in sight and you cross it, the next day you go for a run.
Whoa.
Which doesn't sound right? You would think the next day you'd want to sit on the couch.
Get those
Lactic
muscles,
acid?
all that. Yeah,
That's
you
right.
hurt.
You hurt. You're sore, and the last thing you want to do is sit around. So from that point forward, after crossing that finish line, there's still some work to do, and it's called the taper. It's called rest and recovery. It's understanding your body to the point where you can let your muscles come down from that sore exercise, that race that you just completed. So I compare that a bit with retirement in the fact that there is a long planning session. Like Josh, as an advisor, you know that starting to plan for a client's retirement starts, 3 years out, 5 years out, oftentimes even further.
Yep.
And by the time they cross that finish line, we're super excited for them, but the work isn't done, right? Far be it from us to allow a client to retire and have really nothing awaiting them. They know what they're retiring from, but not necessarily what they're retiring to. And so that work continues. In our business, we continue to ask the right questions, to challenge the clients, to continue a life of meaning and a life of purpose beyond the finish line, beyond the race.
Yeah, and that drives us to really what motivated you to write this book. So would you mind sharing just a little bit about that story and what brought you to this point?
Yeah, absolutely. So, boom, right? I'm a normal human being. I've got a great mom and dad. My sister's a little bit older than me. And my dad's a factory worker, full-time farmer. My mom is a nurse, right? And she loved her passion, her gift, her unique ability was to care for others. And so she spent the majority of her career after she graduated with her registered nurse degree, her RN. She went into the hospital, and if you work for a hospital, they kind of tell you what shift you're going to be on. And when she had my sister and myself, it really wasn't a family-friendly shift for her to be able to work seconds and thirds, and then they rotated her to firsts. And she began to look outside of a registered nurse hospital facility. She landed on a job in home health, which is where you're going into the home to care for the person, which ultimately led to a desire to enter into the hospice world. So hospice, for those who it's kind of, you know what it is, but you don't, it's basically when the healthcare industry says, that's all we can do, and we want to transition you from our facility back to your home so that you can be surrounded in a familiar place and you can be surrounded by loved ones. We're going to care for you the best we know how through the hospice agency. So she fell in love with that as she helped these patients navigate that transition from this life to the next. And she surrounded the family with love and care as well as those patients would move on, would depart from this world to the next. So she, as you can imagine, with that type of a career and a job, that's just emotionally and spiritually and relationally just very taxing. Mm-hmm. So fast forward to the mid-2000s and late 2000s, the computerization or the digitization of medical records really became in vogue. It became the law, actually. And my mom was not a tech-savvy person. She was a caregiver, and she wanted to be at bedside next to her patient, caring for them the best she knew how. And she found herself more and more doing administrative duties behind a desk, trying to learn a computer, trying to figure out how to get these medical records digitized. And so not only was the job itself taxing, but an added layer of technology and computers that she just really didn't want to learn, had no desire to learn, was being forced to learn, and it burnt her out.
Yep.
So she approached her primary financial advisor, along with my dad, to run some numbers to see, if she were to retire, if they were to retire, would they be okay? Could they make it happen? And we had separated, business from family. So she had another advisor, and this advisor gave her the green light and said, I ran the numbers. Yes, we're good. But they had enough respect for me to say, hey, we'll run it by you as well. And so I had the privilege of kind of looking under the hood, digging into some numbers. And I came to the same conclusion that her primary advisor had come to. And the fact was that they were financially stable. They would be able to retire, still owned a farm and operated it. There was some profit and some revenue coming in from that. And they should be fine. Gave her the green light. That was in probably summer, fall of 2009. And she started to like that idea more and more as the burnout from her career in hospice really began to take its toll. So by fall of 2010, she decided to cross that finish line and retire from her career. Unfortunately, what we found out later is that decision became one of her deepest regrets, because she knew exactly what she was retiring from, but unfortunately, she hadn't done the proper work of realizing and figuring out what she was retiring to. She had enough money to sleep at night, but unfortunately could not find enough purpose to get up in the morning. And she had tried as she might to meet with counselors and pastors and friends and colleagues. My dad was still working. A lot of her social networks and familiarity, her community was still employed. My sister and son-in-law still had jobs. I was gainfully employed, raising 2 small children at the time, and we were busy working our own lives. And she found herself alone, and she found herself isolated, and she couldn't quite shake the regret that she had from retiring from her career in hospice. And on March 22nd, 2011, she chose to take her life. And the depth of anxiety and depression that she had, we knew that something was wrong, but we did not know the depth that it was that she of depression that she had. The ramifications of that decision were vast. She left behind my dad, who was her high school sweetheart. They were married for 41 years at the time. She left behind my sister and son-in-law, Mark. She left behind me and my wife and her 2 granddaughters, Eliana and Kaya. My wife was 7 months pregnant at the time with Everett, and they never met. So the ripple effects of that decision were vast, and it was a tragedy. It was a complete stumbling block. And it took some time for me to process what that story would mean for me, because I was one of the ones that gave her the green light. The guilt that I felt for years was ever present. And there was a moment where I knew that her story didn't have to end in tragedy, and it did not have to end as a stumbling block, but rather we could turn that tragedy into triumph, and we could turn that stumbling block into a stepping stone. And I chose to overcome the guilt. I chose to not be bitter, but to get better. I knew this story needed to be shared, and it could really positively impact future retirees, our clients, and those who choose to read this book. And it provides for them a step-by-step guide for them to be able to prepare better, not just from a financial side, but also from a non-financial side as well.
Yeah, and you mentioned stumbling blocks, and that's the purpose, right? It's called retirement stepping stones, and your goal is to take those stumbling blocks, turn them into stepping stones,
That's right.
And that's the whole purpose of this. And like you said, the financial side, the green light given wasn't false. There wasn't an issue with the money, but what you've learned and what you've taught me, and what thankfully our industry is heading towards, is there's more to retirement and life changes, life decisions, than just the financial aspect. Right. And for a long time, that was the focus. Is, you and I, we can crunch numbers and come up with a great plan, but that's just the plan. Like, it's got to be put into practice. And so that's thankfully what this book really focuses in on, which we've had a chance to read it, Austin and I. So we're going to kind of dip into that and look at a couple of those, but appreciate you sharing that. And, having been here with you for about 9 years now, to see that passion of there's more than just numbers. There are people behind those numbers, and those people are going to have struggles. There's going to be changes. There's going to be regrets, possibly, to be alongside them as much as possible. It's been huge for me to learn and to grow on that side of things as well. So we appreciate that. So we're going to look at a couple of these. There are 10 stepping stones in the whole book.
We're going to give you a taste to leave you wanting more, because there's a lot of good stuff.
Yes.
I mean,
I hope so.
There's 10 stepping stones. We're going to pick a few that we think are worth talking about, and maybe not something that a lot of people are talking about in the industry or when they're thinking about retirement. Right. There's obviously the financial stuff is part of it.
Yeah, it's important.
It's very important, but we're going to say that we talk about that kind of stuff a lot. Let's talk about something we don't talk about. So, Tony, one of the first stepping stones, I think it was the first stepping stone, was understanding your values. Mm-hmm. So kind of talk about why you chose to start there. What are some examples of that, and how that is really going to impact someone's direction as they prepare for retirement?
Yeah. So a few years ago, myself, my business partner, Adam, we were able to attend some executive coaching. And one of the key skill sets that they trained us to identify was a unique ability. Each one of us is given, I think God-given, a unique ability in this world. And without one of us, the world is void. You have skill sets that I don't. This person has skill sets that the other person doesn't. Each one of us uniquely gifted to add value and to provide skills to this world. So what I value might be different than what you value, but if I don't take the time to understand what those things are, then I don't know what is next for me. So oftentimes in a career, we're so busy with raising a family, with honing in our skill sets, with punching in, punching out from our time clock, and living for the weekend, that we sometimes fail to relax, step back, take a deep breath, and realize what is it that's important to us. And I think once we understand and articulate what those values are, that gives us the ability to decide and to determine what's next for us. Yeah. There's nothing wrong with retiring and taking a break. I understand a 30-year plus career, you need a halftime. Just like in a football game, you play the first half, you take a halftime to make adjustments, and you come out the second half to do a good job. Mm-hmm. Well, the first half is typically your career. You take a halftime to identify what's next for you. Well, you spent a career honing in your skill sets. You've spent a career building a social structure. You've spent a career developing friendships and relationships. You've spent a career possibly volunteering on certain boards. There are things that are important to you that you may not even realize are. And once you've identified what those values are, you're able to then use that mindset and use those values to determine what's next for you.
And you define those two. There's values and there's skills. Just because you're skillful in something may not line up with your values. You may be good at something, but your values are really what drives that passion and that purpose. And so give us some examples of that. Maybe in your life, what you see values, or just in general, what are some of those? Yeah.
One client comes to mind that we were able to help navigate that finish line, that retirement date. This particular person was in the healthcare industry. And upon, I think 3 or 5 years out, we helped kind of hone in the financial metrics, ask him the right questions. His desire was to be a professor, specifically in a religious department. So how awesome was that for him to be able to identify that value, which is teaching the next generation spiritual values, religious values, biblical values, which he couldn't do necessarily in the career path that he was on. He retired and made that a reality upon identifying what his values were. Yep. When you ask about what is it for me, I think I'm living it a little bit. Maybe not just even a little bit, maybe a lot. This career, what I'm doing right now, is my value. It's helping others, right, retire well, helping them with the financial side of things, and now with the release of this book, helping them to find meaning, to live with purpose, and to leave a legacy.
And you'll probably find that your values, you're probably doing something throughout your life because it is a passion and purpose. So, but come retirement and that transition, it just gives you the opportunity to maybe do more or dive deeper into wherever that leads you. Because I think you're right. Most people that we work with, when they do identify those values, chances are they can point to things they have done or are doing that align with it.
That's right.
Because again, that purpose doesn't start at retirement. You've been driving that purpose your whole life.
Yeah, and you just met with a potential client this week where they're in one particular career and they have a desire to enter into a different place because they know what their heart is telling them to do. They're they've identified their values and they're moving toward that direction.
Yeah, in a lot of instances, that's not going to be what you're doing every day. Yeah. Maybe you're just doing what you're doing to put bread on the table, right? And then there's really something that you hope someday to be able to do because it's super important to you. Mm-hmm. But you've got a family to raise and you can't take a lot of risk or do whatever you want to do. Boom.
Mortgage to pay.
Your mortgage, bills to pay, things happen, and then you get this opportunity. It's an awesome thing.
That's it.
All right. Let's take a quick break. Mm-hmm. We do a dad joke of the week every week, and one of our fun traditions is when we have a guest, we let them tell us a dad joke.
That's right. And Tony, you probably had to stop listening to this while you drive with coffee in your hand that you don't spit all over the dashboard, right?
I have to pull off the road all the time. Absolutely, yeah.
They're that good.
They're that good.
Yeah. So I thought the dad joke this week we could revolve around the investment landscape.
Okay. Ooh, okay.
Austin, I was excited to hear that Apple might start selling its own cars.
That's nice.
Until I learned they wouldn't support Windows.
How do you see?
To whoever stole my copy of Microsoft Office, I will find you. You have my word.
You have my word.
The other day, Adam asked me how good I was at PowerPoint. I told him I excel at it.
Excel at it.
I like that. Tony.
Good. That's
good dad
combination
jokes. And a triple,
right there.
A triple whammy of Microsoft.
Well, I had to go with the triathlete. Also,
that's right.
Okay.
Good job.
Good job. With me. Absolutely.
So that was your dad joke of the week.
Yes.
Brought to you by Tony Hixon.
That's
We're super excited. Let's go through a couple more of these stepping stones. The next one we're going to talk about, Tony, is you mentioned having a plan B, right?
That's right.
So one of the examples was, every boxer has a game plan until they get hit in the face, right?
That's it.
So let's kind of
Mike Tyson. Did he say that?
He got hit in the face a lot. Doesn't he have a tiger?
I think
or is that just in the movie?
Somebody's ear off too. I mean, it's a crazy guy.
So Tony, the plan B when it comes to retirement, kind of elaborate on that. Break it down a little bit. What do you mean by have a plan B?
So imagine yourself having prepared that 3 to 5 years out for that magical finish line for retirement to occur. You get there, you're in retirement, and you've even identified your values. You knew what was next. You wanted to be with the grandkids or travel or whatever, home projects, whatever it might be. And you discover that there's something missing. And that void just continues to get bigger and bigger. And you're not quite sure how to fill it. This is where having a plan B really comes into place. What if retirement isn't all it was cracked up to be? What if you were simply so burnt out by your career that you made a rash decision without understanding what was truly next? So I think that was a bit where my mom was at. She was so burnt out from what was behind and what she was currently going through that she had blinders on and had retirement was such a nirvana to her that once she finally got there, it was a letdown. Mm-hmm. So having that plan B as an option is super critical to give yourself a way out. That way, if things aren't going quite the way you had planned, you're not tripping up with anxiety, which can lead to depression, which can lead anything that, from a mental health standpoint, to allow yourself to thrive is certainly a great idea.
And along with that, that plan B may be a result of things even outside your control. There may be an elderly parent you have to take care of or something that kind of disrupts what you had intended to do, and you need to be able to make that adjustment and say, okay, if this is my value and this is how I was going to fulfill it, but now through whatever the circumstance is, I can't. What are other ways that value didn't change, but how can I achieve that in a different way?
Yeah. I think a way that we often talk about it around here is called a moving future. Oftentimes in businesses, we have a 10-year vision or something like that. Well, so much technology changes, culture changes, team members change, all kinds of things. We tend to embrace more of the idea of a moving future. And I think that's an important attribute to embrace in retirement too, understanding exactly what Josh, you referred to. If circumstances change, being able to have that moldable mindset, that moving future mindset to embrace that plan B.
Yep.
I think one thing that I think about, and you talked about it multiple times in various chapters of the book, was you have a lot more time to fill on your hands than you know.
That's right.
And if you're not filling it with something that leaves you feeling fulfilled, like maybe your job did in some instances, maybe it didn't, whatever it was, or with something that's really important to you based on your values, you're going to fill it with bad things.
That's right.
And that could be just bad thoughts, bad feelings, anxiety,
bad habits.
and bad habits.
Yep.
Yeah, this is not the time to take up smoking. That is not the answer.
Nor is it the time to sit in front of CNN, the crisis news network.
Correct.
And
Yes.
come up with the next conspiracy theory.
Exactly. So I think one thing that I learned a lot going through this was think to fill the time. Fill the time with things that matter. And if you do that, then that's going to be great. But also, like you were just talking about, it may be different than the thing you had in mind.
Yep.
Your plan B is very important to you there.
Indeed.
And finally, I think this ties into that value piece. Is you mentioned one of the later stepping stones, but very important one is the legacy, right? A lot of people have that conversation of, oh, here's what I want to happen in my estate plan, but you took a different approach to it. What were your thoughts on the legacy piece?
Yeah. So oftentimes we see it in our client interactions in the past specifically, we see a very robust estate plan. All the assets transfer to the next generation very beautifully. And there's nothing wrong with that. If that's the value that the client wants to embrace, we're fine with that. Well, and there's another way of embracing a legacy as well. And that is not waiting until your estate plan documents kick in, which basically means that you've died. What if we would start to leave that legacy today? What if we would be able to invest in our children and our grandchildren and into the causes that we feel very passionate about? What if we were to start that today? Let's not think about the future estate plan that might be really cool someday for our children to enjoy. What if we invested in them today? So some examples don't even have to be monetary. They can just be time, right? So one thing that I've started to incorporate in my weekly routine is on Friday, so just today, right? I've started a texting channel with my kids. And it gives me a platform and an ability to be able to articulate a principle, a value, an encouragement that I want to make sure that my kids have record of, that they not only can they read for right then, but they have record of for a lifetime. Even to the extent where we're seeing a lot of clients starting to want to create more memories now than leave a large inheritance in the future. And so we're starting to plan for that in our retirement projections. We're putting larger lump sum distributions out of the portfolio sooner so that the family can have a really fun experience on a big trip or a big vacation.
Yeah. And along with that, you talk about your mom and her legacy, and this book is a piece of that. But you're also, all the profits from this book are going to help continue that legacy as well.
Yeah. So I'm super excited to announce and to affirm. First of all, thanks to Adam for agreeing to this idea. He, super great friend and business partner. He's been alongside me through this journey. We've been in business now for 19, almost 20 years. We were friends before that. So really appreciate his friendship and his encouragement along the way. He's agreed that all the profits from the sale of this book will go to the Pam Hixon Memorial Nursing Scholarship Fund. 2017, my wife Carrie and I, we set up an endowment at the University of Findlay that provides a scholarship opportunity for a nursing student that attends the University of Findlay that displays financial need and good grades. And one of the caveats of this particular scholarship is that as it's given out, I get to meet with the recipient. And I get to share the same story that I've shared with you, that I've shared with the listeners today. so that as they launch into their career of healthcare, where they're constantly caring for others, that hopefully this story will be implanted in their mind that self-care is important too, that you've got to do the hard work of making sure that you're taken care of, that it's not all about others all the time for the next 30 years of your life, but it's also making sure that you're mentally taken care of as well. So all the proceeds from the sale of this book go straight to that scholarship fund. We're super excited for that.
That's great.
So, Tony, we've covered a lot of ground, and there's a lot more ground, right? This book, we skimmed 3 of the 10 stepping stones.
Yeah.
Like 50,000 feet, as we talk about every single week, I feel like, on here.
Yeah.
So much good information here. Kind of give some closing thoughts on your approach, how it's changed over the years, and what you think and hope that this book will do for others.
So one of the things that I've really, I guess, mentally struggled with is the idea of the imposter syndrome, right? And maybe you guys have too, as podcast hosts. There are many, Joe Rogans out there with 1 million downloads per episode. But
he's a subscriber.
He's a subscriber, of course.
Yeah.
So it's very easy for us to get that mindset, like we're not as big, we don't have as big a platform. And so as I kind of thought through, how many clients can I actually serve? What is my capacity to be able to help them each navigate this journey toward retirement? Granted, on our team, we have 3 or 4 CFPs on staff. We can do a lot, but we can't do it all. And so this is kind of that idea of one to many. This is a book that can be sold to thousands, tens of thousands, millions of people. 10,000 baby boomers per day are retiring, woefully unprepared for what's next. Our industry is very great at making sure that the financial boxes are checked. We're not great at ensuring that the purpose boxes are checked as well. This book is an opportunity to continue my mom's legacy, to care for others by providing them a step-by-step guide to be able to prepare for their next step, finding meaning, living with purpose, and leaving a legacy.
Yep. So they can get this book. Where is this book available? How can they buy that if they were interested in the book?
Yeah. I would certainly appreciate any interest in the book. They can go to my website, which is tonyhixon.com/book. And all the buttons will be live and active. Alternatively, the book will be sold on any popular online retailer, including Amazon and anything else that you can think of. Another awesome opportunity that we're providing with this book is a complimentary, by complimentary I mean free.
We like free. Everyone likes free.
Free 99.
Free 99.
So from my website, tonyhixon.com, you're able to download a workbook. It serves as a companion piece to this book. So what in the preliminary stages of the manuscript writing, I couldn't help but think that, man, I'm asking a lot of questions throughout this book. How awesome would it be for the reader to be able to take notes? Right. And to stop and pause that chapter and just do a quick mental check and a brain dump of what's going on in their mind. What are my values that are important to me? What would a plan B look like? So this complimentary workbook will be available at tonyhixon.com for download, and the reader will be able to fill that out as they go through it. So,
in addition to the book, which I hope everyone reads because it's awesome, they can also follow you on social media. So we would encourage everyone to check Tony out. He's on Facebook, LinkedIn, wherever. Check him out. But also, he has a great blog that he writes and sends out
really
every
good.
Friday.
yeah, thank you.
Check that out, and you can subscribe to that on your website as well.
That's right. tonyhixon.com/blog. Yeah, people have been very kind with some thoughts, but oftentimes numbers people aren't always on the creative side. Some people have been somewhat affirming to me that I'm a numbers guy and I can write creatively.
You do have a good writing style.
Yeah.
And it's not all finance-based, which is something that's a little refreshing.
Yeah, it gives me an opportunity to break outside this normal box that I find myself in here at the office and be able to express myself a little bit more creatively. So I've had a lot of great feedback from that. Nothing that I've said is intended to be prideful, but hopefully your listeners, if they will be able to find value in that weekly blog.
Yeah. So he's a man of many talents.
I know.
Triathlete.
Three athlete,
author,
blog, author, now podcast
One
star.
of the fastest 10-key calculator people I've ever seen.
Wow, watch out. We should
It
have
is-
competition someday.
I don't want you would smoke me. I would one finger typing, and you're over there with your little
I'm not even looking.
ticker tape thing flying all over the place.
That's
So
right.
4 years in a CPA firm. That's what that.
Hey, that's
There it
right.
is.
That's right.
Well, from the bottom of Josh and I's heart, thank you, Tony, for
Yes.
being a part of this and sharing your story with our listeners. And we hope that it leaves them wanting more because there is a lot more to learn. But it was just such a special episode where we got to chat with you about your new book, Retirement Stepping Stones. Find meaning, live with purpose, and leave a legacy. Available at all fine retailers. A couple things I wanted to leave you with is, one, it's still not too late to enter our second half stock draft competition. You might beat Josh.
you will beat Josh.
You can actually enter all the way through the end of the year. Check out our website for details on how to do that. Number 2, as always, check out our free gift to you, a brief list of 8 principles for timeless investing. Overarching investment themes meant to keep you on track to meet your long-term goals. It's free on our website. We like free 99. Josh,
Yep.
how can people help us grow this podcast?
Yeah, make sure you subscribe. That way, every Thursday it comes automatically to wherever you listen to it.
Automatically.
Leave us a review on Apple Podcasts. If something that we said here today, or you need to get in touch, you can reach out to us at hello@theinvesteddads.com. If you have a question for Tony, we'll pass it on to him. We know where he works because we work there too. And,
That's right.
But if something triggered something in here, we would love to be there to answer questions or help you out. And then always, if you know someone who's getting close to that transition period or is going through it now, please share this episode with them. Let them know about that book. It would be very beneficial.
All right, well, until next week, Josh and I are signing off, and until we have Tony back, which won't be 2 years.
Let's hope not.
We'll do it again.
All right.
Have a good week.
Thank you guys
Yep.
for having me. The best is ahead.
All right.
That's right. Thanks. Bye.
Thank you for listening to the Invested Dads podcast. This episode has ended, but your journey towards a better financial future doesn't have to. Head over to theinvesteddads.com to access all the links and resources mentioned in today's show. If you enjoyed this episode and we had a positive impact on your life, leave us a review, click subscribe, and don't miss the next episode. Josh Robb and Austin Wilson work for Hixon Zuercher Capital Management. All opinions expressed by Josh, Austin, or any podcast guests are solely their own opinions and do not reflect the opinions of Hixon Zuercher Capital Management. This podcast is for informational purposes only and should not be relied upon for investment decisions. Clients of Hixon Zuercher Capital Management may maintain positions in the securities discussed in this podcast. There is no guarantee that the statements, opinions, or forecasts provided herein will prove to be correct. Past performance may not be indicative of future results. Indices are not available for direct investment. Any investor who attempts to mimic the performance of an index would incur fees and expenses which would reduce returns. Securities investing involves risk, including the potential for loss of principal. There is no assurance that any investment plan or strategy will be successful.